What's up, everybody? This is Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. A lot to get to today. Obviously, a lot of offseason moves since last time we spoke, and Arkansas basketball still struggling. We're going to talk to Danny West, get the latest on all the Arkansas offseason moves, recruiting, especially a junior day coming up this weekend if it doesn't freeze over. And we're going to hop over with our new guy, Bart Reid, our hoops analyst, and get the latest in Arkansas basketball recruiting, what he thinks needs to happen to turn this basketball program around this season. All that and more on today's episode of HawgSports. A lot of ways to watch and listen. Of course, we're streaming live on YouTube right now. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and set it to allow for notifications so you're alerted anytime we upload new videos. Also available on Facebook Live. Follow our page there if you haven't done so. One of 90,000 Razorback fans you can be. That's a Yoda way to say it. One of 90,000 you can be. Also available on Apple Podcasts, almost up to 1,000 reviews on Apple Podcasts. So we'd love to have a 5-star rating from you and a review. Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere else you can think of to find your favorite podcast. And of course, Hawg Sports is just $1 right now for your first month. Coming up on 21 years in the industry, and certainly proud of the distinction that we have as one of the largest sites in the 24/7 Sports Network. And I don't mean top 10. I mean even bigger. So certainly proud of that, being an Arkansas company, and thank you to all of you for your support with that over the years. Where do we start, guys? I mean, there's so much going on since last we spoke. Let's go with Miguel Mitchell, signing with Arkansas. Obviously, the Florida transfer. He visited last week. 6'1", 215-pound safety. They're done at safety. I've got them right now at 20 total defensive backs on scholarship. That's about 2 more over what I would say would be a good number. You know, the way I break it down, I would say 18 total scholarship defensive backs, because you're also going to pull from that group to the nickel position. So I would look for some more movement there. I've got him at 89 total scholarship players. That's obviously too many. Sam Pittman has the number more like 82, just based on his comments previously when he was about 78, and then the changes that have happened since then. So somewhere along the line here, we're going to find out about some new guys entering the transfer portal. Ladarius Bishop also just entered the transfer portal out of Arkansas, and I know you're like, say what now? Yeah, class of 2018. Ladarius Bishop has had a lot of injuries. Obviously, he gets the COVID year back, so he's going to have to petition for a 7th year of eligibility to be eligible in the transfer portal. Obviously, hadn't put a lot of film out lately, so that's just the latest move. Obviously, we know Terry Wells. Let's just kind of go back and see what all's happened since last we spoke. Bryce Stevens has withdrawn his name from the transfer portal. That puts them at 12 wide receivers. To me, that's too many wide receivers. They need to be more at like 10 wide receivers. And some will say, yeah, well, this offense, maybe they need wide receivers for this or that. But the deal is, like, if you have too many wide receivers, and then you're too few somewhere else. And in the age of the transfer portal, you can build a perfectly ideal roster. Okay, I always say use a 3 deep plus 1 model. So, and I haven't even recorded this, of course. 3 deep plus 1 model. So, to me, that's too many at that spot, and a couple too many defensive backs. So we know there's going to be movement moving forward. I've got them at 17 offensive linemen, which I think is the right number. They've missed out on a couple of guys. Michael Mazuka, who went to Nebraska without ever even visiting there. Percy Lewis, missed out on him. They did add 3 that I think are pretty good, and there's still going to be a lot of guys left in the transfer portal coming up. Obviously, there's the potential for Alabama players. Alabama players have, 28 more days to enter the transfer portal. Now, school starts next week on Tuesday, I believe. So school starts next week, and then you get until, the 22nd to get enrolled in classes. So there's still some time to add some more here late. Obviously, they did with Mitchell, but there's still some more time to add some more guys. They've got basically 3 spots right now, according to Sam Pittman, to add players. Offensive line is an area they need to hit, and probably need to shuffle some guys around there. Sam Bakke is going to go to Kilgore Community College. That's from our own Easton May. He reported that earlier today. So not going to be returning to Arkansas. There was some speculation that he might return to Arkansas. But I'll say this on Bakke. Guy got hurt. Made some interesting tweets and social media posts and stuff after that. But really, to me, the guy has a lot of football talent, and I think we'll see eventually him surface somewhere. But he's off to Kilgore Community College this year. We haven't talked about Ronnie Fouch on the show yet, but Arkansas hires Missouri State's Ronnie Fouch, who was co-offensive coordinator there. It's an interesting hire because he doesn't have a wealth of experience. It kind of makes sense, though, from a budget standpoint. He's going to make $200,000 a year. And I think Kenny Guyton was somewhere around $350, I think. So, but Kenny Guyton didn't start off at $350,000. Kenny Guyton came from, also a younger coach, came from Colorado State before that. So he hadn't coached on the Power 5 level yet. Neither has this guy, obviously, and then kind of rose through the ranks, built a reputation, and earned more money. And, that's what Fouch has the opportunity to do. And as far as like the financials of it, Arkansas is paying Bobby Petrino. They're going to pay him starting February $1.5 million a year. I believe that's the number. Dan Enos made $1.1 million. So that's got to come from somewhere, right? That's $400,000. It's not even including Dan Enos' buyout because he had a guaranteed contract, I believe, over 3 years. So the money's got to come from somewhere. So they're still technically over what they had last year. Obviously, you raise a little bit each year with your coaching staff as you retain the head coach. So the money's still got to come from somewhere. Fouch, he's a guy that played obviously Division I football, played at Washington, quarterback, and Petrino likes him. And it's important for Petrino to get somebody who knows his offense. And so that's kind of where it is. It wasn't the big splash hire that everybody was expecting, but sometimes you don't have splash hires. Sometimes they just develop in your system, right? Okay. I haven't seen the betting line on Arkansas's basketball game this weekend. Obviously, they play the University of Florida in Gainesville, January 13th at 3 p.m. That's a Saturday. That game is going to be televised on ESPN. It's a second straight road game. Arkansas coming off a 76-66 loss at the University of Georgia on Wednesday, another late game, and then play Auburn at 1 o'clock. Played Auburn at 1 o'clock on Saturday, January 6th, lost that 83-51, the worst loss in Bud Walton Arena history. Didn't think I'd see that ever on a Eric Musselman team. And, I also say, like, there's some weird things that have had, like the worst loss ever in Arkansas history, in Bud Walton Arena. The worst loss since 1951, and that was against a semi-pro team. They lost by 36, according to HawgStats. Some weird things have happened, for a guy that's been so successful at Arkansas, especially in the postseason. So what does Arkansas have to do to right the ship? We're going to talk to Bart Reid here in a moment and get his takes on things. But, you got this road game at Florida, and then you've got Texas A&M at home on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Now, it's cold right now, guys. It's like 20 degrees outside as I'm doing this show. So frigid cold, looking ahead to the weekend, or I should say let's look ahead to next week. I mean, I hope everybody gets in safe. It looks like there's some weather coming Sunday. And then, so they should be good to get back on Saturday. It's just going to be super cold. It's going to be like 4 degrees at night when they'd be getting in from a long flight. So, but you look ahead to Tuesday. So Tuesday, Texas A&M game's at 8 o'clock. It's minus 3 degrees on Tuesday. Now, the snow will have gone a couple of days, but that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, it's going to impact the attendance at Bud Walton Arena, and obviously you always wonder. It's amazing how they always seem to make the games. I can't ever remember a game that's just been like postponed or anything due to weather. So hopefully everything goes according to plan, and they're playing basketball on Tuesday. I mean, we should probably talk about Nick Saban. I know it's not Arkansas related. Everybody on the Facebook page, anytime I post something like, Ole Miss quarterback battle, like, I don't want to hear about Ole Miss. I want to hear about Arkansas. I'm like, well, I mean, they're going to play Ole Miss. Don't you want to know who the quarterback's going to be? So Nick Saban retiring at Alabama, and hopefully things go terribly for him, right? I mean, they've been on top for so long. There's two schools of thought, I think. Alabama's such a great job, big-time job, and I mean, maybe the best job in the country. You're going to have the support, the facilities, the access to great players, the tradition that you can lean on also at Alabama. But do you want to follow Nick Saban? That's the big question. What I think is probably going to happen at Alabama, I think they'll hire somebody, probably a guy with great credentials, not the same great credentials as Nick Saban, obviously, but probably a guy with great credentials, and then probably not work out the same level. I mean, you may win. You're going to win at Alabama, most likely. We've seen Mike DeBose, he didn't win, obviously. But I could see them in a situation where, because it's the guy that follows Saban and he doesn't live up to the same standards, that maybe they move on and then the next guy probably gets the ship righted, because I do think that there's a bit of a scare in terms of following that guy. If it were me, I would probably go after Lane Kiffin. I think Kiffin has a proven track record now from his time at Florida Atlantic and what he's done at Ole Miss in a short time. I like the idea that he just really took them from where they weren't in like a great spot before they weren't a disaster, but under Matt Luke, they weren't in a great spot when he took over, and has done it really on his own. I look at Dan Lanning at Oregon, who I think is a great coach too, and he's sticking around at Oregon, but he took over a pretty good situation. Mario Cristobal had them, went 12-2, then they had the COVID year, and then they went, they won 9 or 10 games the year before he came in. So they were already, churning pretty good. Mike Norvell, obviously he just signed an extension with Florida State, so he's not going there, but that's another guy that's been talked about. But he's another guy that took over a situation at Florida State that wasn't doing very well and struggled in his first year there, and now got him rolling. Obviously Dabo is an Alabama alum. I think he's so established, and he's not like a hot name right now because they haven't been what they were before. So maybe another guy, but I don't think it'll be any of those guys. I don't think any of us are expecting that. Maybe Lane Kiffin, but I don't think it'll be any of those other guys that we're talking about. And it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, at Alabama, you would expect a lot of turnover. I think that's kind of something you look at with Sam Pittman at Arkansas. If things don't work out next year with Pittman, there's 65 people on his staff that work under him, and a lot of those people are going to be displaced. So at Alabama, it's not like you can just say, well, promote the next guy. I mean, the next guys aren't like veteran coaches, like coordinators-wise and stuff, and Steele just so I don't know where Alabama goes, but it's an intriguing story to watch. Like as far as outside of Arkansas coaching searches go, that's about as intriguing as you can get. Okay, I want to go to Bart Reid now. So Bart Reid, we just announced Bart Reid today is joining us as Arkansas as our HawgSports hoop analyst. Just to give you an idea of this guy's background, he's a skills development coach for Pure Sweat Basketball and a high-level grassroots basketball coach. He's worked with some of the elite recruits in Arkansas the past several years. Also serves as the director of training for the Arkansas Hawks. Has worked at some of the most prestigious camps in the world, like the Wooten Camp Top 150. This is a guy that has a ton of credibility. I mean, his relationship with college coaches, his relationship with athletes. And when I say like guys that he's trained, I'm talking like Isaiah Joe, Nick Smith Jr., Layden Blocker, Devo, Jalen Williams, Joseph Pinion, Jersey Wolfenberger on the women's team, Daryl Macon. He trained for NBA Draft Combine, did the same with Isaiah Joe, Khalil Ware. I mean, it's a long, long list, people. And even now, some of the top guys, Terrion Burgess, Kellen Robinson, J.J. Andrews, Isaiah Seeley, Deshaun Hayes. I mean, it's a long list of some of the top prospects in Arkansas. Really think he's going to be able to lend a lot of insight in terms of, what Arkansas, the players that Arkansas is after, and of course his insight into the college basketball game already. So go to HawgSports.com. You can check out him. He did an Ask Me Anything Q&A today. And, going back to Bart's background also as a player, I can remember, I watched him as a player hang 40 points on a couple of people. He played at Little Rock as a high school player. He was a scholarship player at Little Rock. He led the state with 29 points a game, scored over 1,700 points, over 1,000 rebounds, almost 350 assists. So obviously a pretty well-rounded basketball background and great connections to college coaches. So really going to provide a lot for us. And we're going to go to Bart right now. Bart Reid, I just gave you a wonderful introduction. Hope you can live up to it all. How's it going, man?
I'm great. How are you, Trey?
I'm doing good. A lot of you may have heard Bart on Drive Time Sports also. He does a couple of segments a week there and does a great job. And, when we just started talking about, the position that we had here, just seemed like you could be a great fit. And obviously I've known you for a long time and excited about having you on the team.
Well, I'm super excited for the opportunity, and trying to hit the ground running thanks to your help, Trey. And listen, basketball is 24/7 in the state of Arkansas, high school level, college level. So it's something that never stops, especially with Coach Musselman on the recruiting trail like he is. So I'm excited to be here. Hopefully I can live up to the expectations.
Well, Bart, let's just jump right into it. I mean, obviously, 2024 recruiting looks like it's pretty well set for Arkansas. Let's hop over to 2025, just inside the state. I mean, just the way the state has been producing talent the last few years, I'm not sure that there's another state in the country that per capita produces the basketball talent that Arkansas has over the last several years and continuing down the road. But let's talk about some of the top 2025 basketball players in the state that Arkansas could be going after. Who, in your mind, should that be?
Well, I think you have to start off with Terrion Burgess. Terrion Burgess out of Benton is a 6'10". I would describe him almost, Trey, like a Kevin Garnett type of inside-outside player that can shoot the basketball, but also he has elite-level athleticism. He's number 33 overall. He's the number 1 prospect in the state. And, Trey, what's crazy about that 33 ranking is he played up as a 2025 on one of the best 2024 grassroots teams in the country, but he had an ankle sprain that basically knocked him out of the first 2 live periods last summer. So I think that ranking is a little deceiving because I expect him to really shoot up that list. And obviously the usual suspects, especially in the SEC, are all over it. Alabama's recently come in. Nate Oates says Terrion would be the top prospect for the Crimson Tide. Arkansas obviously offered him extremely early. Ole Miss is heavy on the trail, and Missouri, who has been extremely active, who came in and got another one of my guys, 2024 Honor Boateng. So everyone in the country is clamoring for Terrion's services, and he is living up to the bill this year, basically averaging 24 and 14 at Benton this year. So far.
All right, Bart. Let's go to who's next on the list for 2025? I know you got a few guys in mind. Isaiah Seeley out of Springdale, definitely top 100 player.
Yeah. You can't, because his growth factor, and not just in terms of skill, he's growing. So he's listed at 6'4", 6'5". I saw him this summer. He looks straight more like 6'6", 6'7". So certainly a guy that goes inside, outside, plays on one of the best grassroots programs in the country. Did extremely well on the ESPN Top 100, number 72 overall. Arkansas offered him extremely early, and he's another guy. Virginia Tech, Missouri, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, everybody in the country, and I expect him to shoot up the board as well.
And let's go to who else you got? Is it Jay-Sean?
Jay-Sean Hayes.
Yeah, Jay-Sean Hayes out of Whitehall.
Out of Whitehall, the biggest of the guards, 6'7", extremely physical. I would say hovering probably around 205 pounds. Really has a great elite-level basketball IQ, makes extremely quick, efficient decisions, shoots the ball at an extremely high clip, excellent defender. His dad, Josh Hayes, played at Ole Miss, was one of the Parkview greats, so certainly comes from great pedigree. But again, this is an elite-level guy that's kind of stayed off the national radar because of injuries, but playing for Bradley Beal. But Arkansas really identified him as someone that can really come in, averages 12 free throws per game, and that's something that Coach Much likes extremely, is his ability to take contact.
So Burgess is the number 33 overall prospect in the nation in the class of 2025. Seeley checks in at number 53 overall nationally, so a couple of very highly regarded guys there. And then Hayes is, let's see, where is his ranking? I don't know if does Hayes have a ranking?
I think he's inside. I think it's safe to say inside the top 150, but I don't think he's got a composite score with a couple of the places because he did not play on quote unquote a shoot circuit for a couple of years. So I think that'll level itself out. But he's certainly a top 100 type target. I don't think you're going to see Coach Muss offer anyone below that. Who
are some of the top schools that they're going to have to beat for these guys? Let's start with Burgess. Is it Burgess or Burgess?
No, it's Burgess.
Yeah, let's start with him. Obviously, he's going to have a lot of options.
Yeah. So Porter Moser of Oklahoma, was in several times before the season started. So certainly a defensive-minded school that plays at an extremely high level, Team Georgia school. So Porter Mosier has been after Terrion quite a while. Missouri coach Smith Peters and Terrion's father have relationships, actually coached at a small college really early in their career. So there is a real strong relationship there. So I think Missouri certainly in that top mix. Ole Miss, because of proximity, Terrion is in Benton now, but is from that four-city area. So Ole Miss, Oxford, and you have, of course, Wes Flanagan over there now. Coach Flanagan has deep relationships with Bill Ingram and the Arkansas Hawks, which Terrion plays for. So I think those are the top. And if you throw in Alabama because of style of play, and then I'd just rounded out Michigan and Jawan Howard, they've been extremely active on Terrion and made a trip, I think 2 trips to Benton just in the preseason alone.
And what about Sealy? Obviously, he's number 72 ranked nationally on 24/7 Sports. The 24/7 Sports composite ranking has him number 53 overall. What are the top schools to beat for him?
Well, I think with his ability to play at the grassroots level, I think really Auburn is heavily after his services. Oklahoma State, Oklahoma again, and you're seeing Porter Mosier really, really being effective recruiting, especially all the in-state talent. Virginia Tech is another school. Last time I talked to Isaiah that he's extremely high on. And you round out with Ole Miss, who again, because of Coach Flanagan, has such great ties and knows the recruiting trail. Those are really the schools that are after him so far.
And Jyshawn Hayes.
So Jyshawn Hayes currently has an offer from UAPB, Ole Miss, and Arkansas. So that's where he's looking. He doesn't have a ton of Power Fives, but again, I think that changes based on the fact that getting some of that Arkansas offer and then getting that Ole Miss offer. I think once they see that, I think you'll start adding some offers.
Bart Reid joining us again. You can follow Bart at Bart Reid 24/7 on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. We're slowly transitioning to just calling it X, but if you want to follow Bart, you can follow him there at Bart Reid 247. And of course, go to HawgSports.com. You can get all the latest basketball analysis from Bart also. Now, Bart, I want to talk about 2026, but first let's take a break on the recruiting stuff. We'll get to 2026 here in a moment.
Okay.
Arkansas basketball is obviously in a bit of a slump, and we've seen this before. We haven't seen 32 points lost at home, but we've seen them start off a little bit slow in January, maybe a product of so many new players every year. But I don't know, does this feel a little bit different to you? What are your thoughts on the start Arkansas has had, and what do they have to do to turn this thing around?
It feels different because I think we don't have that we've had in the past where we had J.D. Note, Anthony Black, Nick Smith. We don't seem to have, and we thought Minifield was that guy. We don't seem to have, or Arkansas doesn't seem to have that guy that can just go get a basket whenever he wants to, create separation, and either get to the foul line or score. So I think if you're looking at it, that's the main difference between teams currently, this team currently, and then teams that we've had in the past. Also, really defense. And it's not all defense because people have been hard on the Razorbacks. It's really specifically covering the three-point line and contesting those shots. Obviously, we saw in Auburn, rebounding is an issue. A lot of that stems from not stopping the ball in transition, just allowing teams to just push the ball at will up and down the court. And so I think those are the key areas. And Trey, me and you talk ball screens. You see it so much in the SEC. If you cannot defend high ball screens, low middle ball screens, it's going to be a long day, especially with the physicality of SEC type guards.
Musselman says they always, they have great practices and stuff. I don't know how much like they do scrimmaging and stuff like that. I know that they moved 5 scholarship players to their scout team, but what in your opinion are they going to be able to turn this around? I mean, just based on what you've seen, I mean, I know that what they have to do to turn it around, but do you think that they're capable with this squad of doing that?
I think they're capable. And if Coach Musselman, if anyone was going to look and say who can make adjustments, Coach Musselman, because of his ability to really look at analytics, the one thing that you're looking at with this Razorback team that he's trying to figure out what that right combination of players is. And we hear a lot of the plus minus. He's looking at more plus minus as a collective in a group of 5. If he can generate that, they can turn it around. this Razorback team has a ton of talent. The same talent that you saw beat Purdue, beat Duke, or those type of players have not gone away. Benefield, I think, coming in late because synergy is a real thing, has created a little bit of chemistry issues, and people are trying to adjust to what their roles are, but they have the talent to turn it around. They need shots to fall. They need to stop turning the basketball over at such a high clip and obviously get some shots to fall in the meantime.
Why do you think it's turned so much? Because like you said, I mean, beating Purdue, beating Duke, and then, we saw some warning signs early on. I think was it UNC Asheville who came in to Bud Walton Arena and won, and then obviously they struggled in the Bahamas, but we saw some warning signs. But early on, I mean, beating Purdue and Duke, that didn't just happen out of nowhere. Why do you think it has taken the turn that it's taken? I mean, obviously, I know you pointed out the certain things that they don't do well, but I mean, were they not doing those things well in those games?
I think the grind of physicality that you're seeing in the SEC doesn't have the skill that I think the other Power Fives have, but certainly just the physical style of play and how the brand of basketball that's played in the SEC. So I think this is a team where Coach Musselman likes to play a ton of minutes. That has affected this particular team. But also, when you're trying to get so many different team concepts, like they're trying to cram in ball screens, defense, like you mentioned, they have great practices. That takes away because of the clock and the NCAA restrictions on time, individual skill, and it comes down to, Trey, can they hit shots? Can Arkansas hit shots, get enough shots to win? So I think some of this is just really narrowing the focus, trying to figure out exactly what lineup is going to allow them to facilitate and be successful, not just on defense, but on offense as well.
When I looked at this team in the preseason and obviously the roster that he was putting together as they were putting it together, I always look at, okay, what's this guy's 3-point percentage? What's his free throw percentage? And I'm just thinking like, well, they're going to be a really good free throw shooting team. They're going to be a really good 3-point shooting team, but they really haven't been. I mean, like what gives there, like, how do you go from like just being career 70+% free throw, shooter and, knocking down, 35% or better of your 3-point, shots for your career, and then just kind of taking such a step back. And, Devo, the way we saw him finish last year shooting the ball, and he obviously hasn't shooting as well either.
Well, because there's so few, Trey, and this is across the country, knockdown shooters. So a knockdown shooter is what in the NBA they would call above that 42%.
Yeah.
42% from the 3-point line. There's just not that many guys around the country, not just in Arkansas, but anywhere. When you travel on the road, those role players that at times will hit shots, whether it's against Ole Miss, Mississippi State, they hit shots at home, they will tend to miss shots on the road. And what happens is you have to almost be perfect when you're traveling on the road to these tough environments. But certainly mechanics is some of it. Legs gets to play a part of it. And the offensive flow at Arkansas at times gets really stagnant. So players are having to create those shots. The teammates are not really manufacturing those shots for them and helping them out and helping get more open looks, easier shots.
What would you go with? Obviously, you'd mentioned earlier that that Musselman, kind of wants to, I guess, play fewer guys and more minutes and stuff. But like, what would be your ideal group out there? What do you think it could have the best chemistry and help turn this thing around?
Well, I think Benefield is one of those guys that can create a shot, and just with his shiftiness and ability to get to the rim, he is a ball handler. Trayvon Mark, obviously, or Trayvon Brazile is your NBA prospect, or is that guy that is an NBA prospect that has the potential to be one of those top 10 type picks. Devo Davis, to me, is the X factor because he's so good defensively, but is struggling offensively and almost at times seems really almost uninterested in being extremely aggressive. That would be the core nucleus. Mark would obviously be, because of his defensive ability and high motor, one of those guys that would also warrant a ton of minutes. And then I think you're really looking at Battle, that I love his game a ton. I just don't see Jalen Graham, because some of those minutes are being deferred to Jalen. I don't see Jalen Graham as being that guy that can consistently play both ends and be like a 3-and-D type guy, even though he has done better this year.
Yeah. All right, Curtis. I think that's enough. I think we covered pretty much everything we wanted to hit on, unless you got any other takes you want to do before we hop over into this class of 2026.
Nope. I think that's it.
All right, buddy. All right, so class of 2026, obviously, this is a really good-looking group, and you know we were talking earlier, you think this has a chance to be maybe the best in-state crop ever, even better maybe than the storied 2022 group that had Nick Smith and Khalil Ware.
Yep, 2 McDonald's All-Americans. And if you look at it, not only are they just extreme talents, their versatility and their ability to kind of play multiple spots. So at the college level, you are what you can guard.
Mm-hmm.
Players like J.J. Andrews, who is the son of Arkansas great, former Arkansas football great, Sean Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
J.J. provides such a unique level at 6'6". He's a lefty. He's long. He can guard inside. He can guard a 3, guard a 1, guard a 2. He's so athletic. Shoots the ball extremely well, especially catch-and-shoot situations, but is an elite-level finisher right now. Can get in the lane and finish over the top, can extend and finish, can play through contact. He is one of those guys playing for Bradley Beal that wows every time he's on the court. Trey, I think when it's all said and done, he is the number 1 player in his position in the country, and I see unlimited upside because I don't think he's done growing. Arkansas and Coach Musselman have already said he would be top priority. He's a guy that they really, really want to get in state.
So he has Arkansas, Illinois. Are those all his offers, or where is he at in terms of the battle for his services?
Well, and I think the SEC has done such a great job at identifying these players early. So he's got offers from essentially everyone in the country. Mm-hmm. He missed an event with ESPN that kind of, I think it cost him that ESPN-type ranking. But, again, he's got Oklahoma State, OU, Auburn, Alabama, Nate Oates. So everyone would be clamoring for this young man's services. I don't even think it's a question. Mm-hmm. I think he has stated he wants to stay proximity to home, so I don't see him going a long way away from home. He's very close to his family. Mother and father want to watch him play, so I think we're looking at SEC areas is really going after him for his services, and certainly what I think his preference for a top 5 would be.
And another top 30 player inside the state, Aiden Chronister, is ranked the number 28 prospect in the country out of Rogers, Arkansas. And, yeah, that's 2 very, very highly ranked players in one class in the state. Your thoughts on Chronister?
Yeah. So, Trey, would you agree probably the best player that most people have not heard of around the state? Just an incredible talent, 6'7", a long 6'7", shoots the ball at a high clip. I would say probably one of the best pull-up three-point shooters in the entire country, and I think he's extremely well-rounded. Coach Musselman talks about how impressed he was with his ability to get to the rim and finish over what appeared to be much stronger, more physical opponents. I think he is the best passing forward in the country. He sees players extremely early, has high-level decision-making, and certainly with his proximity close to the Arkansas Razorbacks, from what I'm hearing, that is an area where he is certainly leaning because of proximity to home, and Coach Musselman's style of play would be perfect for an Aiden Chronister type of player.
Yeah, 6'7", 170, good-looking prospect there. Jacob Lanier, is that how you say it, Lanier, out of Maumelle?
Yep, Jacob Lanier, out of Maumelle.
Yeah, he's not ranked on 24/7 Sports right now, but he's actually one recruiting service. Another one has him ranked as the number 28 overall prospect in the country. So potentially 3 top 30 guys in the state of Arkansas in 2026.
And it's weird, Trey. We had this unique kind of players in these classes like Lanier. Kellen Robinson was the guy that we forgot.
Yeah, I was gonna go back to Kellen and circle back to him, but we'll get him in a second. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so Lanier is another one that's just like Jay Sean Hayes, does not have that wow type ranking from all the places. They really give him that pop that I think he's deserving of, because Coach Musselman glows about this young man. Average as a freshman last year, 11 free throw attempts per game. Has the best mid-range game that I've seen in a player in a long time, regardless of class. Handles the ball extremely well, gets to mid-range spots, which is the lost art, can knock them down, but also plays through contact really well, getting to the foul line. But this guy is one of those players that, again, he's could play the 1, 2, or 3, but because of his size, at 6'5", I would say 185. Certainly, he is a versatile talent, and I think he's going to continue to shoot up the national spotlight as well.
All right, let's circle back around to class of 2025, Kellen Robinson. I guess reclassified, right? He's listed as the number 128 overall prospect in the country, number 16 combo guard, and number 3 in Arkansas. Obviously, we remember his brother, KK.
KK Robinson. And so Kellen has not only reclassed, he switched schools. Kellen started at Episcopal, and has gone back to Bryant now, started with the Hawks in the grassroots and went to Nike Pro Skills. So this is a guy that's well above his 128 ranking, and someone that Bruce Pearl offered extremely early because he noticed the skill and physicality at 6'3" and a very stout, lean, I would say 190 pounds. This guy is almost unstoppable in the lane. Averaged over 29 points a game last year. An effortless 29. Bryant just beat Central, which we know has potentially 4 Division I players on that team. Kellen completely dominated the game, I think, in every aspect. Great ball handler, certainly an Arkansas target, and could, when it's all said and done, I think, compete for Terrion for that top spot in that 2025 class.
Wow, that's a mouthful. All right, Bart.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate having you on. Thanks for all your insight on the recruiting trail and, of course, with Razorback basketball. Those of you who want to follow Bart, you can follow him on X/Twitter, whatever we're calling it these days, at Bart Reid 24/7. That's BARTREID 247. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for that. Have a good one.
All right, everybody. That's Bart Reid. Hope you enjoyed that segment, and we'll have Bart on a lot more in the future. So, all right, we're going to hop over to Danny now. Danny, you guys are more familiar with, I'm sure. Danny West covers recruiting, football recruiting primarily for HawgSports. You can follow him at Danny West 247. Where you at, Danny? On X. I'm just going to start calling it X now, I think. It's just going to be X instead of X/Twitter or whatever we're calling it. It's just X now, Danny. How you doing?
What up? New guy knows his stuff.
Yeah, he does.
I had to follow the governor on the radio this morning. Now I got to follow Bart.
Is that right? So, Danny, we had some changes on staff, and I had north of 250 people apply for that position, and it was a lot to sift through. I did it on Indeed, so I get a lot of one-on-one interviews and stuff, and a lot of people I really like that I'm saving, because we, are obviously growing and ever expanding. But Bart knocked it out of the park. Just his background, his knowledge of Razorback basketball, growing up in the state of Arkansas, obviously, but the athletes he's worked with over the past and his connection to college coaches and stuff, I think is going to be invaluable for us and our members over on the Razor's Edge at HawgSports.
I agree. He's off to a fine start. I've been reading his content. Just heard him a few minutes ago. I had to jump off real quick. By the way, we got a house full of people. Everybody's out of school, and so if anything happens today, it could be the day. But
gotcha.
Yeah, Bart, I'm fired up about him, man. We keep it rocking and rolling, man. I wish everybody the best, as they come and go.
Sure, of course.
We just worry about us.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a lot of good people we've worked with in the past, and certainly wish everybody luck in their future endeavors. Danny, hopping on to this weekend, there's a junior day coming up. Like, it's going to be cold. Is it happening? It's not the time you're going to go sit outside and have a barbecue.
No, this won't be the cookout event, I'm afraid, but they're supposed to. Talking to you earlier this week, it sounds like maybe the worst of it is maybe pushed back to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, somewhere in there. So maybe that gives you a chance. But, yeah, they've got a few coming in. The headliner Trey, is Jack Lange.
Mm-hmm.
He's a kid out of Eureka, Missouri, 4-star, top 247. Recently offered by Arkansas, just very recently. I want to say maybe 10 days ago or something. So pretty quick turnaround there. He's got offers. He can go just about anywhere. So good to get him on campus. You're going to have some in-state guys, of course.
Well, Danny, hey, real quick on
Yeah.
on Lange. It feels like Mateos is like, kind of, I don't know, I want to say catching up, but like obviously getting a lot of offers out real quick because everything's new with him and probably had to evaluate a bunch of guys. But it seems like a lot of offers went out, from him kind of in a flurry.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was telling Baz this morning. He was asking about the new receivers coach, Coach Fouch. And I was thinking, man, here in a couple of weeks, we'll probably be able to identify exactly what he looks for in a receiver and, things like that. But, it didn't take Mateos very long. I want to say he offered a few in December. And then, of course, here in the first 12 days of the new year, seems like maybe a handful more of new offers. So that's always I call it the fun part, but it's kind of the challenging part too, because you get to know one guy's priority list for, 2 years, and you're familiar with those names, and then bam, it switches on you. You got to completely rebuild that big red board. So, Jack Lange, as I said, 4-star, number 115 in the country. So just outside of the top 100, 6'8", 275. And, I mentioned the offer list, but it seems like everybody in the Midwest except the Chiefs so far is offered.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, Nebraska, Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, Iowa State, KU, K-State. He's got them all right here. So Tennessee, Ole Miss, Notre Dame also on that list. We'll see where it goes from here, but this is the time of year where you try to stack as many unofficials as possible. History tells us, statistics tell us, the more you get of these unofficial varieties, the better off you are, the better your chances are in the end. So it's an important time of year. I know it gets, it seems like fans don't get excited about these junior days, but I tell people all the time, these are the ones you got to pay the most attention to. It's not that cookout in July or, who's coming to the games in the fall. By then, shoot, man, all the work should be over, but these next few months, minus February, which of course is a dead period, January, March, April, that's where it's at nowadays. If you want to find out who your team is going to sign in December, pay attention this month and March and April.
Some people are saying, and this must have happened since I got on the air, but Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
Looking like maybe he's the guy for them. That's not who I want them to get.
It's a bad mixture right there, buddy.
Yeah.
What's he lost, like 3 games ever?
Yeah. Somebody on our board was like, I just want Alabama to experience a little humility just for a little while, But,
Hey, I did a little study on that, not to get off the recruiting topic, but, you think about some of the guy, there's been several that had to replace the guy. And I put this on the board this morning, a little study, quick breakdown. But you think about what FSU went through after Bowden, Urban Meyer at Florida. They had their run and really struggled after that. I'm not sure people realize this. Florida has had losing seasons in 4 of the last 7. They're 17-21 in the last 3. At Pete Carroll at USC, it's been a struggle for them to crack the top 5 again. Bob Stoops, Tom Osborne, of course, in the 90s. That's a tough gig, man, but it really doesn't surprise me if that ends up being the hire. I mean, that guy, man, all he does is win.
Yeah, he does. It didn't win the national championship,
scary.
But obviously had an incredible season, 14-1, and
incredible.
Yeah, and it's not like Washington. I mean, I know Washington has I know Washington has had some success in the past. Obviously, been to the college football playoff
sneaky
before.
Good program.
So, yeah. All right, so let's run down the list a little bit more.
Oh yeah, going back to Junior Day, we got off topic there, but Parker Glaze, a kid out of Benton, he's an offensive lineman. Tate Spray out of Center Point, another offensive lineman. Seems like I've seen him at camp or unofficially a few times now. Tate Spray. Brody Watley, a defensive lineman out of Monroe, Neville High School. I think he came to the BYU game, if I'm not mistaken. They've offered Brody. He's got a fairly decent offer list. Chase Garnett is a running back out of Argyle, Texas. Bo Mosley, a kid that seems to come up every chance he gets. He's an athlete out of Russellville. So, you look around the conference this week, Trey, and yeah, you start to compare the lists a little bit. And Arkansas doesn't have a ton of 4- and 5-star guys coming in, but given the circumstances, given the weather coming up this weekend, not using that as a everybody's got to deal with that in this part of the country, but it is what it is, man. They're trying to get more guys on campus. Wouldn't surprise me if we add another couple of better names between now and then, but also wouldn't surprise me to see people not be able to make it once they see that weather forecast. It's going to be pretty brutal.
Yeah. So Danny West joining us again. If you don't follow Danny, at Danny West 24/7. Danny, what's your thoughts on all the stuff going on with the transfer portal right now? Obviously, there's a lot of Alabama players that maybe potentially they have the option to enter the portal, and Arkansas kind of missed on some offensive linemen. Got Miguel Mitchell. We talked about that earlier in the show. Is there any room here on these last few days to get anybody else in here? Obviously, defensive line would be an area you look at, maybe another offensive lineman. Or is that stuff we're waiting for linebacker possibly, or is that something we're pushing to the late portal window maybe?
I've just got a suspicion, and I'm not getting everybody's hopes up here, but if I know Pitt, he's probably got 1 or 2 remaining guys that maybe we haven't talked a whole lot about. So without just spilling it all, I think there's a chance, to answer your question, I think there is a chance that maybe they sneak somebody in for a late visit over the next few days here. Of course, classes start, will that be Tuesday. The 16th? That'll be Tuesday. Yeah. And then, of course, they've got, I want to say until the 22nd to officially enroll, and that's pretty much the deadline. So you got about 10 days here to work with. The problem is, of course, you know this better than anybody. You don't have any spots. Technically, you don't have any spots left. You still got some work to do in that regard, but it's the official visit count that's really holding you up right now. I've never seen Arkansas run out, and I'm not saying they're out. I think they've probably got a couple of rollovers from previous classes that they're able to, sneak a guy in here and there down the final stretch here. But man, it seems like they used up all 56 this year, and that's something in the offseason that's got to be addressed. I think, obviously, that's obvious.
It's
obvious. You're dealing with so many more transfers now. You can't just limit 100%. It to 56.
100%. There's so much. That's back when you didn't expect to have roster turnover like you do now. That ought to be almost doubled. We ought to be talking about 100, I think, I think you're 100. That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot of work.
Bumping it up by 20 isn't unreasonable.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
I think they could use that. But just kind of a general thought. You asked me about the class. They did have some misses this week. There's no way to spin that. When Micah Mazuka left out of here last week, obviously the offensive guard from Florida, I almost submitted that pick, Trey. I felt like Arkansas had him pretty much wrapped up. But then, of course, he said he had one more trip to Syracuse, and then out of nowhere, I want to say Tuesday or Wednesday this week, he commits to Nebraska, and we find out he's got a little brother there, and that was enough to overcome Arkansas and Syracuse. And then, of course, last night, Percy Lewis, offensive tackle. I think they wanted this one really, really bad, and Auburn did too, and they proved it. From what I understand, they proved it, and they had to. You think about. Oh yeah. Here's the thing about
had some misses, man. Auburn did.
Yeah, they had several in a row. One of which is Fernando Carmona, who chose Arkansas. They wanted that joker bad and didn't get him. Went on to strike out on 3 or 4 more. They had to have Percy Lewis. And I'm not saying Arkansas didn't need him. Also. Clearly they do. They're trying to revamp that thing. But, they've already got 3 in the boat, and I'm not sure you can really argue with the 3 they've been able to get in Nichols and Blackstock and, of course, Carmona. So I like where they're at there, but, boy, I'd feel a whole lot better if they had at least one more, maybe 2 more, where you can point to it and say that's a drastic, immediate shift right there. So,
Danny, it's like what we were talking about the other day, what we used to say on those kind of things, like – somebody got in his ear. Sharks are circling, and they bought him. Somebody bought him, and now they bought him.
Tennessee
That's what happened.
That's exactly what happened. Tennessee was trying to get involved as well. I think they were expected to host Percy this weekend. So good for Auburn, man. You can't get them all. You just can't.
Sure.
And it feels like we've reached a point where if Arkansas doesn't announce a new 4-star transfer every day, the whole class sucks.
Yeah.
You know?
There's some good players in this class. I mean, they've got some work to.
They got 3 of them.
Yeah, they've got some work to do still. I mean, so much of this thing is going to be determined, Danny, by how well this offense plays with Taylon Green or Jacoby Criswell at quarterback, how well it's managed under Bobby Petrino. I mean, that's going to be a huge – I think the defense will be solid again. I'm not going to say it's going to be outstanding, but it has a chance to be solid again. And, you know, if you can have a middle-of-the-pack defense and, you know, a really good offense with a quarterback – you know, and I can't blame Arkansas for changing up so much stuff on offense with the way things went. And you don't want to go down, you know, with the same players that you had before. And just look like, man, what were you doing? You knew that there were problems, and you just went down with the same guys. So you had to make changes like that. And, I wish KJ Jefferson well. I mean, he did some good stuff while he was here. Didn't have the season that we expected out of him last year. But I can follow KJ at UCF. I can follow him. I could have followed him at Miami. I couldn't have done it at Auburn, you know, or something like that. But off at UCF, sure, I can watch him and you know, continue to hope that great things happen for him. So
and should be fun to watch under Gus, too, you know.
Well, I mean,
but Gus going to run him to death probably. But
Danny, if you think about it, like, who is, you know, he's always talked about, you know, modeling his game after Cam Newton. That's the guy he followed growing up.
Yeah.
And every time you turn on TV and it's a national broadcast, they always talk about how he's similar to Cam Newton and stuff. Obviously not Cam Newton, but, you know, similar in a lot of ways. And now he's going to go play for the guy who was offensive coordinator for Cam Newton. And then you look at who Arkansas brought in Taylon Green, and, you know, you think about Bobby Petrino and him having Lamar Jackson. And, you know, maybe this is a guy that could kind of fit into that mold a little bit. And
we're not calling him Lamar Jackson.
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know, when you
similar.
I think this guy, in fact, is more like Matt Jones than Lamar Jackson. I think the closest thing we've seen to Lamar Jackson, I think, played at LSU last season. So I think that's an interesting dynamic when you think about KJ and Cam Newton, who won the Heisman, and Lamar Jackson and Taylon Green, you know. And, you know, obviously Lamar Jackson won the Heisman and under Bobby Petrino. So, I don't know, kind of an interesting dynamic there.
Yeah, I like comparisons. You know, kind of looking at the list here. I guess we ought to run through this too, Trey.
Coaches always say they don't like to compare. We love to compare. We love to compare. We love to compare scores, even though everybody's like, you can't compare scores. But we like doing that kind of stuff too because we can.
That's right. That's right. I want to make a note of the early enrollees. I believe everybody except your kicker, Matthew Shipley, coming over from Hawaii. He told me Sunday, but I'm hearing he's going to be in tomorrow. Charlie Collins out of Little Rock Mills supposed to be in tomorrow as well. So I think that'll do it, Trey. Pretty much everybody else is here. You talk about Taylon there. He got in on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Anton Junkaj, who I nailed on the pronunciation on the show last week.
You did, man. I asked him. I sent him a DM, and I was like, "Man, I'd love to know how to say your name right." And he sent me
one every now and then.
He sent me audio. He sent me audio of him saying it.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. So
he's a cool kid.
For those wondering, it's June, like the month of June, and then it's Kaj, like you would say, you know, mirage or massage. Kaj with a hard K.
He got in Thursday. Tight end Andreas Pask. Are you going Paskey or I'm going Pask?
You're going Pask?
He got in. Yeah, I'm going Pask on this.
I could see Pask. I mean, where's he from? Denmark or something?
Denmark, yeah. Yeah, he's fired up. Also got a text late last night. Didn't report this one, thought it was a little bit late, but it was super late. Marquise Robinson, the cornerback from South Alabama, he sent me a text as soon as he got in. So, like I said, sounds like everybody's in. We know the offensive linemen, they had already been in. Keyshawn Blackstock, he got in super early. Fernando Carmona got in early this week, and of course Addison Nichols has been here as well. Still waiting on Jaquindon Jackson. I believe he's already here, as well as Xavier Sori, transferred from Georgia, former 5-star. So that should round it out. I'm looking at a total of 13 high school kids. I mentioned Charlie going to be not late. I mean, shoot, he'll be here on time, but I think that's the last one they're waiting on for the December signees from that 2024 class.
Gotcha. All right, Danny. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody. Danny West. Follow him at Danny West 24/7. Great stuff today from Danny West and Bart Reid. Two guys did a fantastic job. And, what else can you say? A lot of information and good content. That's all we can ask for at HawgSports. And hope everybody enjoyed that. Now, we got basketball on Saturday and got a junior day coming up. And it's going to be cold, so stay warm out there. All right, everybody. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Thanks to Danny. Thanks to Bart. And we will catch you guys next time. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com.